Welcome to Gadgettes, a podcast where we women-splain the latest technology. I'm your host, Florence Zion, consumer tech reporter here at Gizmodo, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Michelle Earhart, who's also my editor. Hello,
Yes,
Michelle.
I am a deputy editor of consumer tech at Gizmodo and happy to join another episode of Gadgettes. This week we have a bit of a special episode of Gadgettes if you want to get into that flow.
I do want to get into it. Pop!
What's that, Nani?
What's that? Behind me is this wonderful little gadget, which is the Pixel 6a. And that's actually, my
Mm.
goodness, I am just so disappointed at how no camera can capture how cute this is in person.
That looks so nice.
It is really nice in person, and we're going to talk all about it today, actually, in this episode that you are viewing, previewing, engaging in right now. So I feel like, Michelle, we should just get into it.
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll talk about the phone.
Well, the reviews are out, and I feel like the decision is final. This is a phone that is very much worth $480.
It
$480?
looks so nice. It almost
460?
makes me want to swap back to Android Flow.
There's some concessions that you'd have to make for this particular phone, I will have to say. I would not
Okay.
want you to hop to an A series from the iPhone that you're on. Which iPhone are you on now?
I'm on the iPhone 11, so I am a
Okay.
little behind the times with that one too. I believe it's only got a dual camera as well.
Yes, but does it have the impeccable night sight capabilities of this here Pixel 6a? I would say it does not.
Probably not. Whenever I take a photo and it's too dark, it makes me like hold the phone for a little bit so I can get a larger exposure, which
Oh,
makes it
man.
impossible to take photos of my cat because she will not stay still.
Oh, it's true. If Google Photos has done anything, it's served me lots of albums of blurry photos of my cat. May she rest in peace. Google Pixel 6a is, listen, it's a hit for anybody who wants a mid-range Android phone. But again, we have to tell you about a couple of the concessions you're making. But first, the good stuff. The good stuff is that this phone is under $500. So if you're looking for a phone in that wheelhouse, you're probably considering this compared to, let's say, what do I have here at my desk of things? Compared to the unwiped Galaxy A53 5G. This is from Samsung. This is their mid-range device that is about the same price point. And you're going to find me comparing the two a lot because they're kind of like toe-to-toe in terms of mid-range Android devices. You might also be thinking, I don't have it next to me, but you might also be thinking about if you want to go back to the iPhone, because you still can go to the iPhone at this price. The iPhone SE, which is $420, it borrows a lot of the same, or rather, I should say the Pixel 6a borrows a lot of the same strategies from the iPhone SE. And so you'll see kind of like when it comes to this particular category, those are the three phones that you might be thinking of in the back of your mind. Now, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Some things to know about this particular device that is both behind me and in my hand.
Movie magic.
I know, right? Google's Tensor processor is inside the Pixel 6a, which is awesome. It was something that we figured Google would do after Apple did it with its Bionic chip inside the iPhone SE. And the Bionic chip was also, by the way, featured in the iPhone 13 flagship. And so we saw kind of like some parity between the chips between the two devices. But like the iPhone, it is very obvious you're using a mid-range device when you're on a Pixel A series versus a Pixel flagship.
Mm.
Yes. The Pixel 6a is held back by a couple of things, starting with the 6 gigs of RAM. Perfectly.
That's a little small for 2022.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, a lot of mid-range devices do come with this much RAM in them. The A53, for instance, also has 6 gigs of RAM, but you will notice that slowdown. It is there. Memory is important for things like if you do a lot of AR or if you go to websites with lots of moving pictures on
Mhm.
them. All these things will affect the memory on your phone. The other thing that might sort of get you down is that I'm going to go ahead and I keep wiping the screen because these phones are so fingerprint prone. I will, by the way, talk about the fingerprint
Yeah,
scanner in
that is
a
something
second.
that because that's one of the areas it improves on the base
Yes,
pixel.
that's for the next section. That's for
All
the
right.
so stay tuned for
Stay
that one. All
tuned.
of those. But so this really nice display, which again, the camera will never do it justice. This nice display is only a 60 hertz refresh rate. If you've been following along with specification sheets, you know that a lot of smartphones have adopted 120 hertz refresh rates. Some of which would say they're adaptive because they want to dial down on the refresh rate when you're not using it. But it
Mhm.
is very noticeable when you go from a 120 hertz, so hard to say many times in a row, when you go from 120 to 60 in the same sitting.
Mhm. I don't know. Like, am I gonna be, playing a competitive multiplayer like shooter on this phone? No. I think I could
That's a
deal with
point. That's a
60,
point to make.
but at the same time, it does make the UI seem a lot smoother. And I don't know why that is so much more important to me on a phone than on like a desktop monitor. Because most desktop monitors people are using at this point are still 60 FPS.
That's true. I am definitely using a 60 hertz monitor. Maybe this is a 90 hertz. I don't quite remember what I bought, but I bought it off of the bargain bin
Hmm.
because I.
I have a fancy gamer monitor, but like when I'm not gaming, it's nice to have my mouse move around the screen a lot, more smoothly. But is it necessary? I guess on a
Mm,
phone you have like a degree of like confusion and separation with the touch and the motion stuff where any sort of feedback is helpful. So I can see why the 120 hertz might be more important there, but I don't want to belabor the point. I'm still interested even if it's only 60 hertz.
I will say that there is a noticeable smoothness in scrolling between like the Pixel 6 Pro, I should say, because that one has a 120 hertz display. Actually, I think they both do. I've been eating so many specs over the last couple days, so please forgive me if something seems off here. I'm gonna just go ahead and put that disclaimer out there. But I will also say that the screen size of this device may be why you don't sweat the refresh rate because this is a 6.1-inch display. This makes it the technically the smallest Pixel device that you can buy right now. It's also the lightest Pixel device. And I
I
was talking
love
to
me
some
a
folks
small phone
yesterday.
flow.
It's there are people out there who don't want big dense phones. There's
Hmm.
actually some accessibility things to take into consideration with the weight of a phone. Like sometimes just that extra bit of strain on your wrist maybe makes it a little uncomfortable for some people. So
Hmm.
this would be the phone that you would want to check out if what you're looking for is just a small phone with access to all the googly things that Android provides. That's one thing to
I
sort of
did
keep in mind.
notice one thing when you were showing that screen. You have a
Mhm.
little camera freckle on there at the top. It's not as aggressive as like the iPhone notch, but
I do not like this as much as Cindy Crawford's mole, I will say.
it's a beauty
Okay.
mark.
Yeah,
It's a
this is
beauty
not a
mark.
beauty mark. This
Okay.
is this is a distraction from TikTok, all right? I remembered it was there when I was on TikTok the other day. I was in the Matrix.
Mhm.
I think I was watching something controversial. So
Oh.
my heart rate was already kind of increased. I was already like on the edge a little bit. And then I saw the hole in the head of somebody who was doing like a confessional. And I'm like,
Ah!
I don't like this. No. Why do we put it in the middle?
I could see it like triggering a little bit of I think it's called trypophobia, the people who are
Mm,
afraid of all sorts of tiny holes. It's just the one hole, but it's definitely more noticeable as a hole than like the iPhone notch. Speaking of holes though, that
yes.
that bar on the back of the phone, the camera bar that has a bunch of little camera pinholes in it. There we go. I made the connection. What do you think about it? Because I think it's kind of cute, but I know you have varying opinions on it.
I will say they actually shaved off the profile on this phone, so it doesn't protrude as much as on the Pixel 6 series. And I actually like it for that reason, but you'd be surprised at how many people are probably going to miss the little like pillow that the Pixel had. I've talked to some folks that said I really like the pillow of the camera bump on the back. So, just to that end, I do put my phones on a pillow. I actually have this cute little couch.
Oh,
See, and the phone just kind of like lays on it like that.
oh, that's so you.
I know. I'm sorry. Should we talk about some of the camera hardware? I feel like this would
Yes,
be a
let's
good
talk
time for
about
us to jump.
the camera hardware.
Let's take a little break
Sure.
first. And then when we get back, we'll talk about all that hardware-y goodness on the inside.
Ooh.
All right, so let's talk about these cameras here on the back. I'm trying to pull a little Vanna White, you know, while she's still on TV. So as expected, this is the best smartphone camera that you can buy for $480 for this price
Okay,
point, I should say.
definitive.
This is definitive. The night sight photography on this remains unparalleled. It takes the beautiful long exposure shots that you expect from the Pixel series. The Google Tensor chip helps the algorithm a lot here. It's very obvious because I was doing side-by-side comparisons with the Pixel 6. Like, here's what it looks like in the Pixel 6. Here's what it looks like on the Pixel 6a. And what was the most noticeable of the two, I would say, is that the camera hardware in the Pixel 6, it's bigger glass. It takes in more detail, more light than the two lenses that are on the back of the Pixel 6a, which is to be expected at that price point. So that's just something to take into consideration. But the night sight, again, this is the phone that you want to take with you if you like to go camping, maybe avoid water because it's only IPX7 rated, but it's good for all that nighttime by the fire, by the candlelight, flare that you've got going on. The photo temperature, I found them to be very, very well tempered. That's how I would call it. Like, just it feels like close to real life as my eye would see it. The Samsung A53 takes much sharper photos just because the lenses and the hardware it has is a lot different. It also can take zoom photos that the Pixel 6a's super zoom does not, because the optical sensor is much bigger in the Samsung. So the Pixel 6a does not provide as much sharpness. Like, it will enhance the imagery. It will kind of try and enhance detail because it's what the algorithm does, but it's not as sharp as
Do
what
you
Samsung
want
would
that
produce.
much sharpness, though? Because I was looking at your photos in your review, and you took like a photo of your sort of beige patio, and on the Samsung
Guilty as
phone, it looked like
charged.
stark neon white. But on the Pixel 6a, it looked like this sort of natural, comfortable, homey color.
That's right. Often what would happen is Samsung is very aggressive in its algorithms, which some people actually like. And there are instances where I like it. Like on a cloudy day, for instance, it can be really helpful. But then sometimes Samsung will over contrast. So there's also that to take into consideration. But overall, the Pixel 6a, if you just want something in your pocket that can take pretty good pictures, I was impressed. I was impressed.
Good.
I will say. Yes.
How else does this like differ from the Pixel 6 hardware wise, since we're working with the same chip here?
The battery life is a lot. It was very impressive on the Pixel 6a. I was not expecting it to last as long as it did. So the battery test took such a long time that we had to publish the review before the battery test was ready.
That's always a good sign, I think. I had to do
Exactly.
that on a couple of reviews in the past.
Exactly. 18 hours. It lasted almost 18 hours, about 17 hours and 56 minutes, according to the time lapse tests that we do here at Gizmodo. And that battery test includes streaming a 24-hour YouTube video and just waiting until it peters out
Hmm.
at 200 nits. So not full brightness. It was actually 83% brightness on the Pixel 6a, and it would not die. It would not die, which is a testament to Google trying to really eke out what it can through the algorithms that it
Hmm.
infuses into these devices. I will say that Google has another claim that you'll get over. I wrote 75 hours in our notes. It's possible, it might be more than that, but they promised several days of battery life on a single charge if you go into like an extreme power saving mode. I
Jeez,
didn't get to
that's like
test
a
that
whole
out.
week. Well, no, that's not a whole week. I can't math. That's like 3 days. That's pretty
But
good.
it is. I haven't been able to test that because obviously I've been like, I just haven't had time to put the phone down and wait for it to die in that
Hmm.
way. So that is the next thing I'm gonna test and see how long we can eke out of it in that case. Because I really feel like a lot of van life people.
Yeah, I see you put hashtag van life in the notes, and I think that's because I hear these long hours battery life, and I'm like, what is the application for that aside from looking nice on the back of the box? But then I realize, I live in a nice apartment in the city that I come home to every day, and not everyone is in that situation.
Yeah, some people live in $300,000 vans, Michelle, out
Yeah.
in the middle of national parks. Come
How
on.
hard for them.
I
But
kid, but
it's
I'm
good for
also
travel, it's good for camping, it's good as we get
exactly.
into summer.
Exactly. But in all sincerity, I brought up van life because it does seem to have taken off among the youth.
Mhm.
Whereas our generation was
The
more into
youth.
the backpacking through Europe. Now the new
Mhm.
generation is into driving a van. So
Okay.
just
That's the
something to consider.
60s. It's resurgent.
You're right.
You
Yeah,
go in
bell
cycles.
bottoms are coming back too. Disco's coming back. You listen to Lizzo's new tracks.
There was a
Anyway,
Zoomer in the office the other day wearing a pair of bell bottoms, so
it's
I
happening.
also I wore bell bottoms in college, I will say this. So it's a
I
young
have a pair in
people
my
thing
closet
again.
that I'm still not like fully confident to wear out, but I'm getting there.
So it's a phone for young people and
It's a phone for young
influencers is what I'm
people.
hearing. You can take great photos. It'll live forever. Um,
Live forever. That's true. I mean, at least for 5 years with updates from Google, which includes security updates and pixel feature drops. That's the new exclusivity that you get in the Android world. So that's how they do walled gardens.
okay. So it's
Yeah.
got a great camera. It's got great battery life. It has the same chip as the Pixel 6, but with 6 gigabytes of RAM. It costs how many dollars again?
I believe 480.
Okay. And
I'm
it's
sorry,
got
it's $450. I've been saying it wrong this entire time. Thank you to
I'm
everyone
glad
for
we
listening to
got
this
that. No
podcast.
worries.
The
Um,
Samsung phone is 480 starting. That's
okay.
why I keep mixing the two.
It is Friday
Um,
afternoon, folks.
bless us, everyone.
And it's got one improvement over the Pixels.
I have one last thing I am going to run you through, which is the fingerprint scanner on the Pixel 6a. Now, it was a very controversial topic because the Pixel 6 flagship really disappointed Android fans with the fingerprint scanner. The in-display fingerprint scanner was not up to par. There were software updates that had to be issued. There are still angry forum posts. It's a thing. And so when the Pixel 6a was circulating around the internet, people were saying, "Oh, yeah, please tell me that they fixed the sensor on the Pixel 6a." Well, folks, I think they fixed it. All I can tell you is that it takes at least a millisecond less of placing the finger down on the in-display fingerprint scanner to unlock the phone. It is a quick little thing, unlike the Pixel 6, which sort of relies on you to hold the fingerprint down until it does its thing. I have to say, though, Michelle, that I got into a conversation this week with somebody, and we were just kind of thinking, like, so the other phones that I've been testing have very quick fingerprint scanners. Like I can just like tap it and it'll unlock. Does that mean
Mhm.
they're less secure than these ones that are requiring us to sort of really scan in there. You know what I mean?
I don't know, because like if you're already
I don't know.
getting to the point where you're touching your fingerprint against the phone, I don't know what a couple more seconds is gonna buy you. Um, Personally, I love fingerprint scanners on phones. I
Mhm.
have the iPhone 11, which was the one I believe where they introduced Face ID, and that seemed really
This
nice
idea is so
up
good.
until the
I get
pandemic
why.
dropped. And now I'm wearing a mask everywhere with my phone, and I can't use Face ID to open it up. I know they've introduced a new update that allows people with the more recent iPhones to use Face ID even
Mm.
with a mask on, but my phone doesn't support that. So while I was editing your review and I saw fast fingerprint sensor in screen, and it actually works this time, that seems like a major selling point to me. I know that's not unique to Pixel, but I'm glad to see that this is still getting support.
Yeah, and I would mention too, by the way, that the iPhone SE doesn't have Face ID, it has Touch ID.
Mhm,
So the fingerprint scanner is on that same price point as well as the Samsung A53. So this is in line with what phones are going for at this price.
mhm.
Um, Overall, Michelle, okay. So you and I are a very specific subset of phone users, right?
Mhm,
We have a lot of privilege, which is that
mhm.
we have a lot of access, but also like we would probably prioritize a flagship, I would say, over.
Mhm.
But does this price point tickle your fancy at all? Like, do you think you could
Yeah,
use a
I
phone
think
with
it does because, like, what am I going to use my phone for? I'm going to use it for YouTube. I'm going to use it for sometimes Netflix. I'm going to use it for browsing the web and Twitter and Slack. And I'm occasionally going to play a game. And I usually, I have a Steam Deck. I have a PC. I have a PS5. I'm also privileged in that way. So I'm not going to be playing a ton of graphics intensive games on my phone. So at a certain point, adding more hardware to the phone is just diminishing returns. And this is, I think, more than sufficient for the browsing and photography needs of most people.
I agree. I will also say though that if this were me, I would probably choose the Samsung A53,
Mm,
not because of performance, but just because of that display. They bundled it in a 120 hertz super AMOLED display on their mid-ranger.
that is
And
nice.
I am, as you've read my reviews, I am actually a mobile gaming fiend. I play
Hmm.
Pokemon Go. I pay for Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. Don't come at me. I now apparently I'm playing Avatar games. It's just there's always something that I'm tapping on to like get my dopamine fill at the end of the
Hmm.
day. So a screen is really important to me. I also read a lot of recaps, TV recaps on my phone.
Hmm.
So I need to be able to have that. And so that's just an example of things that you got to think about when you're going phone shopping for, and you're on a very severe budget. And so
Hmm.
that's the kind of concessions you make at this price point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, pros and cons, but depending on your needs, this might give you everything you would want from a Pixel without costing as much as, a Pixel 6 or a Pixel 6 Pro.
Yeah, this will probably go on sale too, like sooner
Ooh.
than you think for like $100 off, just based
Yeah,
on how they've
you can
sold these in the
expect
past.
a new Pixel line at some point down the
Mm,
further into the year.
mm. I believe they did tell us that there's going to be a Pixel 7. I already see the money floating out of my wallet. Well, until then, folks, we have to get back to work so I can make money to pay for that phone. Uh,
Mhm.
we want to thank everybody for tuning in today to this our special Pixel 6a takeover of Gadgettes. I want to thank you, Michelle, for being here and basically just talking to me about this phone
Of
because it's
course.
been lonely working
I
on it
haven't had
alone
it
over here.
in my hands yet, but it seems pretty exciting. I ditched my Pixel a long time ago and haven't really missed it. But I was reading this review, and it's just a nice, cute, small, capable, affordable phone. Um, I'm too bought into the Apple system to transition back at this point. I have an
Yes.
Apple Watch, but if I weren't, this is definitely the one I would upgrade for, I think, personally, for my needs.
Well, Michelle, where can people find you and your musings that might be on the internet?
My musings, people can find me at michelleearhart.com. It's got a hyphen between Michelle and Earhart. And you can find a bunch of my bylines and all of my socials there. Where can people find you, Flo?
You can find me actually at my special little vanity URL, flowrights.tech. Just type that into your address bar and it will take you to all of my stories at gizmodo.com. And that's the best place to find my writing. As for us here on Gadgettes, you can find us on YouTube on Gizmodo's main YouTube page. You'll also find us on gizmodo.com after we publish every week. We are here weekly. We usually record on Wednesdays and publish Thursdays, but with all of these
special
this
drops,
hard work
it's a
coming out,
busy season, and it's only going to get busier. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week to womansplain the technology again.
That's right. So until next week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.